All right, let's start with Nevada. All right, this is where the Democrats will soon head to caucus sites across the states. Hillary Clinton's once double-digit lead in Nevada has narrowed, though, to a virtual dead heat with Bernie Sanders.
It's neck and neck. Clinton was joined by husband Bill and daughter Chelsea at a rally in Las Vegas Friday night, unveiling a new Imagine a Tomorrow theme to her stump speech.
Mostly, I'm thrilled to be here with all of you because I know how hard so many of you have worked. I am so grateful for this campaign, for all the organizers and staff, and I am particularly grateful for all the volunteers, all the doors you've knocked down, all the phone calls you've made, all the work that you have done. It all culminates tomorrow at 11 a.m. when you and all the people you have touched and talked to come to caucus. And that will be the moment when people will be asked to stand up, and to stand up for me and to make clear the kind of country we want.
Meanwhile, Bernie Sanders called on voters to prove that democracy is alive and well in Henderson.
Brothers and sisters, what this campaign is essentially about is whether we have a political system and an economy which is controlled by a handful of billionaires, or whether we have an economy and political system which is controlled by ordinary Americans. That is what tomorrow caucus is about. Nevada, please come out in large numbers. Nevada, please help us move the political revolution forward. Thank you.
Bernie Sanders there speaking last night. Nancy Cordes is in Las Vegas with more, and she joins us now. So, Nancy, Hillary Clinton once had a very commanding lead in that state, but now it's all evaporated over in Nevada. What has happened here?
Hi, Vlad. Hi, Meg. Well, I think a few things were at play here. First of all, you can't have a huge victory like the one that Bernie Sanders did in New Hampshire, winning by 22 points, and not have it impact races that come up next on the calendar. He had huge momentum coming out of New Hampshire. A lot of voters here in Nevada who maybe weren't taking him that seriously said, wow, this guy's a winner. He perhaps could be a real contender for the nomination, and I'm going to give him a second look. The other thing is that even though Hillary Clinton had a huge head start here in Nevada, she really started organizing over a year ago, really identifying key Latino leaders, reaching out to community members. She had a large organization here. Bernie Sanders essentially caught up. He put a huge amount of resources here in Nevada. He was able to do that because he was able to raise so much money online. And so at this point, they really both have large operations, lots of staffers. They're both able to get their message out there and reach voters. And finally, I mean, you saw in that clip last night, he has a message that is very appealing, particularly in this state, which was so hard hit by the foreclosure crisis. Hillary Clinton has been calling him a single issue candidate, saying that he's only focused on the economy, income inequality. Well, here in Nevada, there are a lot of people who say that's their number one issue, and so they like what he's saying.
Nancy, this is going to be the first real test to see how both of these candidates do when it comes to the minority voters. Sanders has been criticized quite a bit that he can only really relate to the majority of white males. How has he done in reaching out to minority voters there in Nevada?
Well, you know, just like Hillary Clinton this week, he's been visiting with workers here on the Vegas Strip. In fact, he and Hillary both went to the same employee cafeteria at a casino this morning, just within a few minutes of each other. So that was kind of a near miss. He doesn't have the kind of Latino outreach that Hillary Clinton does. She has deep roots in this community. She has, I would say, easily visited 4 times more casinos and union stops and employee, and visiting with linen workers and casino workers and dishwashers. She's really made a big effort this week to connect with them, and they clearly have a lot of affection for her. You know, when she goes to these places, they're hugging her, they say, "I love you," and so there is a lot of genuine affection there. But here in Nevada, as in South Carolina, the next state on the calendar, Bernie Sanders tends to do better with white voters. And so the question is, even if she does have a commanding lead with Latinos, who make up about 25% of the population here, will it be enough to outweigh a Sanders victory among whites?
Yeah, Nancy, so Hillary Clinton had asserted that once we were out of states like Iowa, like New Hampshire, that she would gain control of this campaign, of this process, and she would do well in states with large minority populations. If she loses Nevada, what does that say, and what does that do for the perception of her, what some had called her inevitability as the Democratic candidate?
It's not a fatal blow, but it certainly hurts her image as the front runner when she loses 2 races in a row after barely winning the first one. So it is a big problem for her, especially going into South Carolina. Now, she still has, according to all the polls, a very commanding lead in South Carolina. She leads among African Americans in particular by something like 30 or 40 or 50 points. We've seen, of course, here in Nevada, how those numbers can tighten at the end, especially if one candidate has momentum. But, you know, it will be difficult for Sanders to overcome her lead in South Carolina. She just got a big endorsement yesterday from James Clyburn. He's the top-ranking African-American in Congress. He is a congressman from South Carolina. And interestingly, he had planned to really remain neutral. He did that even in 2008 when he was clearly excited about Barack Obama's candidacy. But he said, you know, I realize that what I say has a lot of weight here in South Carolina, and officially I'm going to stay neutral. That's what he was planning to do this time around. But when he saw how badly Clinton was beaten in New Hampshire and saw that Sanders was tying things up here in Nevada, he realized that Clinton, who he supported privately, was probably going to need all the help that she could get there. And so yesterday he came out and said that he thought she would be the best president.
With such a close race, Nancy, is this going to come down to the undecided voters? We've seen so many polls. Yesterday, there was one poll out saying 10% of voters are still undecided in this contest.
It will come down to undecideds, and just remember that Nevada, like Iowa, is a caucus state, and that means that things play out a little bit differently. You've got people who get together in a room. You hear from the precinct candidates for each candidate talking about why they think that their candidate is the best, and then people separate into camps, and they can try to convince their friends, their neighbors, their coworkers to switch sides. And so you've got undecideds who as one social studies teacher put it to me in Iowa the day of the caucuses there, he said, there's nobody more powerful on caucus day than an undecided voter. And I've talked to voters here in Nevada who just told me this morning that they're undecided, that they haven't decided which way they're going to go. So even though they're tied in the polls, we really don't know what's going to happen. Nevada is a notoriously difficult state to poll. It's a very transient state. You've got a lot of people moving in and out of the state all the time. A lot of people don't have a landline. They have a cell phone, and so it's difficult for pollsters to reach them. And so while there is some polling here in the state that shows the two are tied, we're really not going to know which way this thing goes until after the caucuses today.
And speaking of those undecided voters and people who are not sure if their minds are made up, there's been an intriguing development. There's this new picture of Bernie Sanders, Nancy, I'm sure that you've seen by now, that has resurfaced from his college days. And there it is. It shows him being arrested during a civil rights protest in Chicago. And so I've been looking at Black Twitter, African Americans on Twitter. A lot of people have been saying, you know, props to Bernie Sanders for being a part of this movement. Could that bolster his support with some of those African American and minority voters?
It could, especially because there have been some African American supporters of Hillary Clinton, John Lewis, the congressman and famed civil rights leader in particular, who sort of poo-pooed Bernie Sanders claimed that he had been part of the civil rights movement, Congressman Lewis said, well, I didn't see him. I saw Hillary Clinton and I saw Bill Clinton at the March on Washington, but I didn't see him. And so the fact that this video has resurfaced does lend credence to the fact that this is a guy who has been walking the walk for some time. Hillary Clinton has been going around saying that Bernie Sanders is kind of a Johnny-come-lately to these issues, that he doesn't have the relationships with these communities that she does, and that it's not enough just a few weeks before the primary to come in and say the right things. And so now Sanders can point to this video, which he had nothing to do with the fact that it resurfaced. It was a filmmaker who kind of dug into his archives and found the video, and it even took the Sanders campaign a while to make sure that it was him. I asked them back on Monday or Tuesday, hey, this video is really interesting. It looks like it's Bernie Sanders. Is it Bernie Sanders? And at the time, they told me, well, he thinks so, but we're not 100% sure. We're looking into it. And then they just got back to us last night and said, yes, 100% we're sure that it is him. And so it just lends credence to his argument that that he does care about minority communities, he does care about African-American communities, and that he's been putting his money where his mouth is for about half a century.
Yeah, it certainly does represent a new side of Senator Sanders that, although he'd been saying all along was a part of his history, now we have that photographic evidence. Nancy Cordes there in Las Vegas for us. Thank you so much, Nancy.
You're welcome. Good to be with you.